What is going on, everybody? It is the Going Over Big Time podcast. I am Mike Charlip, and today it's just me talking about AEW WrestleDream 2025. Alan was not available to join me to review this show, so it's just going to be me today because I was unable to find a co host to join me, and yeah, I just really wanted to discuss this show and everything that happened after on the following Dynamite because I thought this was a pretty good wrestling show. AEW has been killing it on the pay per view side for the past couple of shows, but for really like this whole entire year has been pretty good. I can't recall like there being a bad show. I mean, there was probably some that were not as good as like All Out or All In or Revolution. There's a bunch that are really good and some that are not great but are still okay. This one, I thought this one was good. I'm not saying it was one of the better shows of the year, but it was still a good show. It had a good all around like card that really did not have a single bad match on it. Um, I enjoyed pretty much every match here, and every match really had like a reason to be here, except one that was just a squash on the tailgate brawl, which we will start with. Uh, Once again, AEW had this show on a Saturday because the week of this show, the Jaguars, who Tony Khan's dad and family owns, had a Sunday morning game as they were playing in London. Um, so this show on a Saturday, and to make up the time that Collision was not on, once again, just like they did for All Out, they did a third hour of Dynamite that was technically the first hour of Collision, and then the second hour of Collision was turned into this tailgate brawl, which was essentially a pre-show for the pay-per-view. At the same time, they also had the 0 hour airing once again, and I don't know why they had the 0 hour airing at the same time. You could have had the 0 hour as a lead in to the tailgate brawl. I think that would make more sense. Not that everybody's going to watch the 0 hour, it's just a pre show with no matches if you're going to have a tailgate brawl. But they still aired this during the tailgate brawl, which I don't know about you, but I'm not going to watch both. I'm going to watch the one that has the wrestling on it. Right off the bat, one thing that stuck out throughout this show was that Brian Danielson was not on it. He was very much missed during this show. There was no explanation as to why he was not there. He just did not work WrestleDream. It was good to have him back on Dynamite, but it would have been great to have him on the WrestleDream show, commentating on all of these matches. But let's get into those matches. So the first match on the card was a 8-man tag having the Death Riders, Claudio, Daniel Garcia, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta all teaming up to face Roderick Strong and the conglomeration of Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and Tomohiro Ishii. The conglomeration premiered a new Titantron or Tron video and music, and it's very like Sunday morning sitcom style. It's like a Saved by the Bell, and they have like this like video of them just getting into hijinks as a group with like a cast reveal like it is a sitcom, which I think is really cool. And they have Roderick Strong as a special guest, which is hilarious because he still doesn't feel like part of the conglomeration. He doesn't want to be around anybody but Kyle, and he's still butting heads with the members of the conglomeration that are not Kyle. Um, but this match was a lot of fun. Not surprising. This feud between the Death Riders and the conglomeration kind of just started out of nowhere, but it's been picking up, and this match was great. Everybody got a chance to shine in this match. Orange Cassidy looked better than ever. Um, I love Kyle O'Reilly. I love Roderick Strong. I and Tomohiro Ishii just never loses a step. And I've been saying it on social media, and a lot of people have been saying it. The Death Riders, since this um, change, since Mox lost the world title, have been a lot more. Just their direction seems better. Like they have a better idea of what's going on with the group now, and the stuff that they're doing is making more sense and kind of feels like what they should have been doing from the beginning instead of interfering in everybody's matches and preventing, when Mox was the champ, preventing people from becoming the champ. And when John could have just been having great matches defending the title. But regardless of that, I thought this match was a lot of fun. The Death Riders won this match, which wasn't that surprising. I think they wanted to build to more stuff with these groups. I don't want this to be leading to a Blood and Guts. I think I've seen enough of the Death Riders in Blood and Guts. I want to see if they do have a men's Blood and Guts match. I want it to be um, something with the Elite and Jurassic Express and maybe FTR and something along those lines. I don't want this to be Blood and Guts, but yeah, I thought this was a fun match that the Death Riders won, and Wheeler Yuta's been killing it character wise. He is so over as a heel. Like everybody hates him because of his, turning on Danielson and just never being forgiven for that. And Claudio just looks more fluent recently in the ring. Daniel Garcia is getting to show this new side of him, which I like a lot. Pac is better than ever since his injury. Found it really funny that when he first had his first match back, he tried this new attire, which was like long tights and a tank top. And he did that one time and he was like, never again, and went back to his classic short trunks. But that was pretty funny. And he just has an aura about him lately, Pac. There's something like that they're doing something different in a sense that he's showing more. It's like he's more emotional about like certain things and the direction of where the Death Riders are going. And yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of this match, and we had another match. We had a lot of Death Riders conglomeration stuff on the following Dynamite. We had another 6-man where Orange Cassidy, Tomohiro Ishii, and Roderick Strong took on Claudio, Daniel Garcia, and Pac. Oh no, Wheeler Yuta, I believe. Pac showed up later, but yeah, it seems like we're sticking with this for a while. And Kyle O'Reilly had a match with Mox, which we'll address later because it plays into the main event a lot, and the story that's building after the main event that I am really enjoying a lot. So we'll talk about that later when we get to the main event. The next match was Eddie Kingston and Hook just destroying the frat house. Cole Carter and Griff Garrison, who once again get another tailgate brawl match on one of these pay-per-views, and we would see them again later, which was kind of funny. But Eddie Kingston and Hook won this match pretty easily. It wasn't surprising, of course. I love the pairing of Eddie Kingston and Hook. I love the direction that they're going, where he's Eddie took is taking Hook under his wing and teaching him to be more assertive, more vocally, teaching him to, be more emotional, teaching him to be more like him, which I think is great. Because I thought Hook was great in the ops, but I think this is such a better fit for him. And I would like to see them maybe have a strong run in the tag division. Um, yeah, there's not much to say about this match. They won the match when Eddie and Hook did a combination where Eddie hit the spinning back fist and Hook locked in the red rum immediately after. Um, I will say that I think this is going to help both guys because I think Eddie having a tag partner is going to make it a lot easier for him to have better matches right now. Um, Whereas he might not be fully ready to be back in singles competition, which is fine. He had a pretty gruesome injury that kept him out for a really long time and didn't look great at All Out, as we've talked about in the past. And I hope that this will reinvigorate him as a wrestler and, to get better, back to ship shape like he was before the injury. And yeah, I am excited to see where these guys go as a tag team. All right, so the next match on the pre-show match on the tailgate brawl was a pretty good women's tag match with Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale taking on Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. There was, I think, a little foreshadowing in this match for things to come, which we will talk about here. Um, and yeah, I thought this match was very fun. I like both of these teams a lot. I love the cosplay that Megan and Penelope did. Megan came out dressed as Poison Ivy, and Penelope came out dressed as Harley Quinn. And they would keep that attire for Dynamite as well. Um, Thought it was really cool. I really enjoy all four of these competitors. I mean, Penelope Ford has been better than ever lately. Megan Bayne is a monster who just can work with anybody. Willow is Willow. Everybody loves Willow. She's a great worker. She's a great character. She's great at everything. And the same goes for Harley. Harley is probably one of the best stories, like as far as a wrestler, as far as a personality becoming a wrestler that you didn't think would be a great wrestler. Like, she absolutely just knocks it out of the park every single time with everything that she does, whether it's the character work in ring, like, and she could do everything. She's great, and I wouldn't be surprised if Harley and Willow have a strong showing in the women's tag team tournament uh, for the first ever women's tag team champions. And we will we'll talk more about that here, I guess. So when they announced this tournament, I was kind of hoping that we were going, and I think this has been a common sentiment. I was kind of hoping that it was going to be a big tournament, like more than 8 teams, and that was unfortunately not the case. They would announce on this show that they were going to announce the brackets on Dynamite, but on Dynamite they made it seem like the brackets were not ready until the end of Dynamite. And the reason that is because they did something pertaining to Mercedes, which we will talk about more when we get to her match. Um, but yeah, I was kind of hoping that there would be more teams in this. I was hoping that they would bring outside talent in. When me and Alan discussed this, we talked about, bringing in the Hex, or putting the Renegades in this. Do something like showcase more talent than you've been showcasing in a tournament like this. And even if you're going to have some of the matches on ROH, that's fine as long as you're showcasing everyone. But it's really just the same 8 teams that we've been seeing. Well, again, we'll get to the Mercedes stuff, but yeah, I mean, we were expecting, obviously, Bane and Ford. We were expecting Willow and Harley. We were expecting um the Triangle of Madness duo of Julia Hart and Sky Blue. A lot of the teams that we have here, we were expecting to see them. And I was just hoping for more. And I was hoping that this would be a big tournament to showcase like that this is like we do this better than anybody. That's what I was hoping. And unfortunately, I could be wrong that even though there's only, the 8 teams, that it'll still be a great tournament. There's no doubt. I don't think there's any doubt about that. There is like some, there's one team in particular that I find kind of odd, and that's Windsor and Riho. Um, I guess you just want to get those two in here, so you put them together. But everybody else, and again, we'll talk about Mercedes when we get to Mercedes, but it's just, I don't know. They could have did more here, but either way, I'm hoping that the tournament does well. This match that we were discussing, Harley and Willow versus Megan and Penelope, was a good way to showcase all 4 of these women in building to this. And we're also still building to Women's Blood and Guts, which, since Jamie Hayter put out the challenge, we'll talk about that when we get to that match. How about that? So let's go on to the next match on the tailgate brawl, and this was another great match that wasn't very long, but it didn't need to be. It was FTR versus Jet Speed. And I mean, I knew these teams could have a great match. I knew that I would enjoy this match. I knew, because I love these teams. FTR is probably one of my favorite tag teams of all time, if not my favorite tag team of all time. And Jet Speed has just been killing it as a tag team, because I think these two work great as a team. They have great synergy as a team. They have great chemistry as a team. They have great gear together. In this one, they had like NASA inspired gear. And yeah, FTR has been killing it as heels, and playing up everything that they're doing, and it's great to see the tag team division flourishing again. And they did something in this match that I thought was very innovative. They had Jet Speed, and this match didn't start until there was like 5 minutes until the pay-per-view. And that was concerning at the time. But when they addressed it, what they did was they went off the air on the tailgate brawl and then started the pay-per-view with this match already going on, and then blasting off fireworks in the background of these two teams just having a hockey fight in the ring. I thought that was awesome. I seen, again, a very common sentiment that was a different way to start a pay-per-view than most shows start a pay-per-view, like the match already began, but if you were watching the pre-show and planned to watch the pay-per-view, then you get everything out of this match. And again, they went for 8 more minutes after that, which was great. Again, FTR would end up getting the win when Stokely got involved and did the old Bobby the Brain Heenan Rick Rude spot where he held the foot of Mike Bailey. And yeah, they just did everything in this match. I thought it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I think that we're going to continue to see this because it will play into something we're going to discuss in one of the upcoming matches here. So we will touch on this again in a few minutes. Some notable spots in this match that I enjoyed a lot was Dax. Oh no, not Dax. Cash did like a gory bomb on the outside to the apron. I thought that was awesome. Had Mike Bailey is just so flawless with like the high flying. He did like a great Asai moonsault. I love everything that these guys do. It's just so good. And yeah, like I said, the tag team division is flourishing again, and I'm happy about that. All right, so the official first match of the pay-per-view, technically, because even though the first match started on the tailgate brawl, was Jamie Hayter defeating Tekla. I love this match. I think that it's not the best match in the world, but it was a lot of. I thought these two had great chemistry. It was a lot of fun. They did a whole thing at the beginning of the show where Tony Schiavone introduced the widow of Lou Thez because the show was in St. Louis, and she said that Lou Thez would love AEW because it puts wrestling first and all of that, and that was what he was about. And yeah, they put the camera on her a lot during this match. I don't know if she was there for the whole show or if she was just there for this match. I don't recall seeing her for other things. But Jamie Hayter acknowledged her during her entrance, and there was one point where Tekla got in her face and wanted to shake her hand, and she pulled her hand away. The heel thing to do. Tekla had a great crossbody to the outside during this match. There was a lot of hard-hitting shots. They really laid them in. Jamie Hayter always does, but Tekla coming from like her background and starting out in Stardom and stuff, she's really acclimated to AEW really well, and yeah, I thought this was a good match that they obviously had to put off for a long time because Jamie was supposed to face Tekla. Well, apparently they didn't even have a plan for Tekla when she first came in, and Jamie was unfortunately injured at Double or Nothing, so they did an angle to bring her in. And then when Jamie was able to come back, they were finally able to get here, and they did. Everybody was banned from ringside, which is one of my favorite things in wrestling because I get to just see a wrestling match instead of somebody interfering and causing a disqualification or helping the other person to win. I get to just see a good, solid 15 and a half minute match between these two, and it was great. And yeah, I mentioned the women's blood and guts match, which Jamie Hayter was the one who laid out the challenge to the Triangle of Madness to have the women's blood and guts match. The Triangle of Madness still hasn't answered the challenge. The show is 3 weeks away, and we don't even know what the teams are going to be. We can assume, obviously, Jamie is going to have Aminata on her team because they are, I guess, a tag team now because they're a tag team in the tournament. And then you'll have the Triangle of Madness. Is this going to be 4-on-4? The Triangle of Madness will have to get another team. I mean, it could be 5-on-5, and they could have Megan and Penelope and the Triangle of Madness take on Jamie, Aminata, Willow, Harley, and one other person. I guess that would make the most sense. Maybe you could throw Tony Storm in there. I don't know. With Tony Storm, I mean, we'll talk more about her, but yeah, I just would like to know what's going on with the women's Blood and Guts match and what the plan actually is there. But we're gonna, obviously we're starting the tag team tournament, and the tag team tournament's going to lead into Blood and Guts. So I wonder if the people that are going to be in Blood and Guts aren't going to go very far in the tournament, which makes a lot of sense, I guess. On Dynamite, they had a fatal four-way match between four of the teams in the tournament. And the winner of that match got to choose who they would face in the first round of the tournament. So that brings us back to when it was mentioned that the brackets would be announced on Dynamite. But you're having this match, meaning that the bracket hasn't been laid out yet, because you don't know who's going to win this match and choose who they're going to face. So it's kind of like counterproductive to say you're going to announce the bracket, but you can't announce the bracket until after that match takes place. So we had a fatal four-way on Dynamite, and they did that stupid thing that we talk about on here all the time that I hate, where you have a fatal four-way tag team match or a triple threat tag team match and only two people are in the ring. I absolutely hate that. Because there's no psychology there when you do that. You have two people representing two of the teams in the ring, and then the other people just have to do blind tags all the time. I hate that. Have one person from each team in the ring. Or make it tornado so you don't have to do that. But either way, the fatal four-way, so Jamie and Aminata win the fatal four-way against Bane and Ford, Willow and Harley, and Sky and Julia. And Aminata and Jamie chose to face Julia and Sky in the first round. So the first round for them will be that match. So we'll see. Again, we're going to talk more about the women's tag team tournament when we get to the other women's championship matches on this show. But right now, we'll go into the next match, which is the $500,000 tag team match. All right. So when the Young Bucks lost their EVP status, they immediately went into they don't make as much money as they used to, and now they are poor, which doesn't make a lot of sense from a logical standpoint. But I get it because if they would have beaten Swerve and Ospreay, if they're both hurt and might not be back for a while, having them lose that match and not be eligible to face for the world title in a year wouldn't matter if they're not going to be there. But also, the same thing, it goes both ways. If they're both not going to be there, if they would have lost, it would have been fine for them to take time off, I guess. But either way, I'm happy that they went in a new direction with the Young Bucks where they're not flaunting their EVP status anymore and, abusing the referees and being insulting to the interviewers and stuff like that. But I am ready for the Young Bucks to get past this. right? Every single week they're showing up and asking Tony Khan for a match like this where the prize is money because they supposedly don't have any anymore because they're not EVPs anymore, which is funny, but I am getting tired of it. I like it, but I am getting tired of it. And to the point where we talked about where they had one of these and won and used all the money. Like, come on. Like, I get it. But so they had this match, which was a lot of fun. As expected, this match was great. As expected, these two teams have worked well in the past. I love that Jurassic Express is back. I love that those two are back together. I love that Jungle Boy Jack Perry, or Jungle Jack Perry as he's called now, um, has like this scapegoat. He's still got remnants of the scapegoat character, but he's a babyface now who the fans are behind because he's not wrestling like the scapegoat. He's wrestling like Jungle Boy, which is what we always wanted, right? Because we knew that Jack Perry had all the tools, right? But the stuff they were doing with him just wasn't working. And Luchasaurus, after everything that he's been through with his health, so happy that he's back to doing this. So back, so back. He's so back, right? And looks great athletically. He's just killing it. Oh yeah, and let's talk about the Young Bucks entrance. The Young Bucks have on the Tron on the screen, they have a receipt pop up where they have all these bills and they can't afford to pay for their entrance, which I'm not sure that's how that works. But again, I get the bit. I get it. It's funny, but again, so they have this receipt of all these things that they paid for and don't have the money to pay for, and that they only have $13 and something cents in their bank account left. So the receipt just flashes on the screen, and then when their nameplate comes up, it calls them the 13. I think it was 1327. It calls them the 1327 bucks. 3227. Sorry, 3227 bucks. And it just says insufficient funds repeatedly. Transaction denied, and that's their music. They don't get their usual entrance because apparently they can't afford it, which again does not make sense. But I get it. I'm behind it. I get it. I prefer this. I think again. I think I prefer this over the you know over the abuse of power Young Bucks, and I'm hoping that this is going to lead to the return of just the babyface Young Bucks. That's what I want. I don't want them flaunting that they have power anymore or had power and acting like rich guys when they don't need that to be their character forever anymore. Go back to being the fun-loving Young Bucks, which is fine. I'm here for that to happen. And they've been teasing stuff with Kenny. That they're going to get back together. And I think it's a matter of time, right? But as far as this match goes, like, there was just so much that happened. Like, great spots, great work. Just, and, Luchasaurus really showed off his power in this match because he got to do a lot here. And there was a lot of great stuff. And the Young Bucks do that combination move where they have their opponent draped on the top rope. Nick does a stomp and Matt catches them into a power bomb. And Jungle Boy had a great counter to that, where when he was caught into the power bomb, he turned it into a Hurricane Rana. I loved that spot. Um, the the Young Bucks took a it. I'm trying to find the words to explain. Like, they did a spot where they caught Jack Perry and did a power bomb on the apron. They did a huge super kick when Jack Perry came in flying off the top rope, and Jack sold the hell out of that. Um, the Young Bucks end up losing this match when the Jurassic Express does their finishing move, which is that it's a back suplex flipped into a power bomb, and it's called Countdown to Extinction. I think it's a great move that they do. That it fits Jurassic Express, right? Um, and after the match, uh, it looks like Jack Perry and Luchasaurus are trying to extend a hand, to shake hands out of respect that got they got their win finally after lose. They lost the tag titles against the Bucks in this very same building in a ladder match, and have never beaten the Young Bucks before this, as a team. And they finally do, and they finally get. I feel like they may have earned the respect of the Young Bucks by doing that, right? And as it looks like the Young Bucks are going to shake their hand, they are attacked. Jurassic Express is attacked by the Don Callis family members, Mark Davis, Josh Alexander, and Lance Archer, the quote unquote, goons of the Don Callis family. And the Young Bucks do nothing. And they go to leave Jurassic Express to be beat up by the Don Callis family. And Kenny Omega comes out. Unfortunate that he did not get booked on this show to wrestle, but it was good to just have him on the show, right? And I thought that he fit in here well. Obviously, like I said, they're teasing Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks finally getting back together and making up and being friends again. If Kenny Omega can forgive Jungle Boy or Jungle Jack, then I think he can also forgive the Young Bucks down the line. And that is just the right direction to go, right? We want to see those three together again. We want to see the original Elite, right? And even if that it also includes Hangman down the line, then you have the original four. The only person that's missing is in WWE, but I guess that's probably never going to happen again. And if Adam Cole comes back, and we've always wanted to see that Elite versus Undisputed Era, or in this case, they're called the Paragon now. The Elite versus the Paragon is a match we've always wanted to see. It's got to happen down the line if it can. When Adam Cole is able to wrestle, that's a match we have to see in AEW. We have to see it. But yeah, we're definitely building to something there with Kenny and the Bucks getting back together. And on Dynamite, once again, the Young Bucks were outside of Tony Khan's office begging for a money match because they lost this one. And they were granted another money match when Tony Khan made a 8-man tag match for Collision that will be airing this Saturday. Time of recording, I'm recording this on the Friday before, so this might be up before that happens, but it might not be. It might be up after. But Tony Khan announces that Jurassic Express will team with Jet Speed to take on the Young Bucks and FTR. Now, a hot topic for years, for the past couple of years, has been that AEW was starting to overdo Young Bucks and FTR, right? They haven't had a match together in a while, and that's fine. We don't want to see another one for a while, but them teaming together is interesting because they've never done that. Because I don't know if it's ever been acknowledged on screen whether FTR and the Young Bucks actually respect each other, right? They've always considered themselves the two best tag teams in the world, and they arguably are. And having them team together is very interesting to me, because we don't know if the chemistry will be there, if there will be miscommunication, or whatever. But you got these two teams that are, again, two of the best tag teams in the world, who are, I don't want to say falling on hard times. I mean, I guess you could say that about the Young Bucks, but FTR is building their way back up the tag team division, right? They're trying to get tag team wins and trying to get the tag team titles back. And that was part of the whole idea of why they turned on Adam Copeland, because Adam Copeland was holding them back from doing the thing that they love to do, which is be the tag team champions. They didn't want to be the trios champions with him. They want to be tag team champions because they are, if not already, the best tag team. They are considered one of, if not, they are the best tag team in the world. And that's where they want to be. So having these two teams team up is going to be very interesting. I'm excited to watch that match. Again, I don't know if this recording will be up before that takes place, but if it is, either way, I'm excited to watch that match and excited to see where all of this is going, because all of these teams are just, again, the tag team division is reinvigorated with these four teams, with Hook and Eddie, with Brian Keith, and Big Big Bill have been killing it, right? They actually work very well as a team, just them two. There's a lot of stuff going on in the tag team division. You got LFI winning, with the ROH titles. You got GOA killing it with Ricochet. I mean, it seems like they're going the trios route, but either way, they're still killing it as a tag team. There's a lot to be excited about in the men's tag team division right now. So I'm very curious to see where all of that is going. And speaking of the Demand and the Hurt Syndicate, that was our next match, and I didn't love that they immediately announced a rematch between these two teams after All Out, right? But given that both teams have had a lot of momentum, and the Demand won the last one, the Hurt Syndicate probably wanted to get their win back, right? And they made this a tornado match and announced that the winner would be the number one contenders for the trios titles, which, why the hell not, right? You got, give us another reason to want to see this match. The winner faces the trios champs. That's great. I love that. And it made a lot of sense later on why the Hurt Syndicate won this match, right? But I thought this match was very good. I don't think it's as good as the All Out match by any means. But this match was a lot of fun. I love, I'll say it forever. We are so lucky to have Shelton Benjamin, right? The fact that he's still killing it the way that he is at 50, we didn't realize how lucky we were when he was, 20 in WWE, 2025. He was killing it even then, but then, he was in ROH and New Japan for a while, killing it there. And then he goes back to WWE and gets nothing and does nothing and doesn't get to showcase anything. And now here, he's getting to showcase exactly what we thought we would get from Shelton Benjamin. The fact that it's finally happening, right? And Bobby is Bobby. He's a freak of nature. Like, I again, and he's almost 50 as well. We talk about this a lot, but these two are probably the only 50-year-olds that I want to see in wrestling, like all the time, because they're amazing. Again, both of them freaks of nature. Like, the fact that Shelton can do the things that he can do still at 50, he can still jump to the top rope without any help, like from the ring. Like, the fact that he's that athletic still at 50 is crazy. And yeah, I just love it. And the Demand has been a great team, a great group. I love this Ricochet. He's the best. This is the best Ricochet has been in years. Um, this is and Khan and Leona are benefiting a lot from being around him, a lot from being with him, and getting to show more character because they weren't doing that before. Before they were just big guys who backed people up, and that was it. And they're getting to show more emotion. They're getting to show more character here, and I love that. And yeah, this match, it was another demolition derby between these two teams, and there was tables, there was all kinds of stuff here, and at the end of the match, sees Ricochet get left alone in the ring, and he's basically cornered by the Hurt Syndicate, and then Bishop Khan pulls him out and takes the bullet for him, and just eats all the moves from the Hurt Syndicate. And then the Hurt Syndicate wins. So the Hurt Syndicate earned the Trios title match on Dynamite against the Ops. And that match was also a lot of fun. For obvious reasons, we're going to come back to this when we talk about the world title match. But um, yeah, I'm excited. I am not excited that this feud is not over. I am not excited about that. I think that this match should have been the end because the Demand did get involved in the Hurt Syndicate's Trios title match, causing them to lose. Um, and I thought the match was great, and there was some great spots in that match. Seeing Shelton face Shibata again was awesome. First time that they've done that in like 11 years or something. And yeah, I don't need to see the Hurt Syndicate and the Demand again. I was ready to move on, but I guess we're getting that again at some point. I presume on a Dynamite, right? Can we just end this on a Dynamite, not push it to another pay-per-view? Because I can't take 5 more weeks of this. I can't. Um, let's do something else with everybody involved. I think Ricochet, Khan, and Leona are tailor made for the trios titles. Um, but I guess they won't be getting them for a while here. But all right, let's go to the next match, and this was another great match. And as if I need to tell you that Kyle Fletcher is really good. As if I need to tell you that Mark Briscoe is really good. These two have already had 4 great matches, even before this one, which was also great. And this was one of the longest matches on the show, clocking it at almost 25 minutes. I believe it was the second or third longest match. Yeah, the third longest match on the entire show. And yeah, these guys just have great chemistry, right? And we've seen that in all of their matches. Uh, but I think that it was the right move for Kyle to win here. But I just love that Mark Briscoe just would not quit, right? Uh, Kyle was hitting him with everything. He, hit the brainbuster at like multiple points during the match. And Mark still kicked out. So then Kyle resorted to hitting the top rope brainbuster, which is always looks deadly. And I love that move. It's one of my favorite moves in the history of wrestling because it's just, again, it just looks so deadly, but when it's done right, it still looks crisp as hell. And yeah, uh, I loved the spot where Mark and Kyle were fighting on the top rope, and Kyle's like just laying on the top rope, and then Mark hits a froggy bow. Then he hits another froggy bow to the outside while Kyle is standing. Then brings him back in the ring and hits a third froggy bow and gets a near fall that was like one of the closest near falls in the match, right? But yeah, Kyle would once again win this match. I recommend this match. It's a lot of fun. It again, both of these guys rule, and I guess it just wasn't time for Mark to have another singles title, but the time will come. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I was ready for Kyle to do something else. They announced that they're having another one probably because Kyle did a promo on Dynamite, and he basically called out Mark Briscoe again. And Mark Briscoe came out again and said that all he needs is one more shot. He knows he can beat Kyle. And Kyle doesn't want to give it to him, neither does Don Callis, because they don't think that he deserves to have another match with him. I'm sure we're going to get it. When, I don't know. But they wouldn't do this if we weren't going to get it, right? And that brings into question of, will MJF make his presence known once again when that match happens to prevent Mark from succeeding in that goal? Or will Kyle just beat him again? Which, if he did, I would be fine with that. But yeah, I mean, obviously MJF will be back sooner rather than later. He's off filming stuff, and yeah, I think that having one more match between these two is fine. A sixth match between these two, and then MJF maybe getting involved there, because MJF did say that he had to go away for a while, and when he did, he was going to make things right with Mark Briscoe before finally going for his world championship once again. So I'm sure that that's the direction we're going. I don't know that. I don't know anything. I just love wrestling and have a have a good idea maybe of where this is going. I not to, I put predictions out for these shows on socials pretty much every pay-per-view, sometimes WWE, but every AEW pay-per-view, right? And I got every match correct except for the Mercedes match, which we're going to talk about in a little while. I don't like predicting this show. I want to be surprised when I watch it, but I guess some of these results were just that predictable, and that's okay. But the next match on the show was the AEW Women's Championship match. And this match was actually shorter than I thought it would be. It was still pretty long for a title match. It was 16 and a half minutes. And I loved it. I realized that I'm saying that a lot, right? That's just what happens when I enjoy a wrestling show. When I actually get to see good wrestling on a wrestling show. Is that a crazy concept? Enjoying good wrestling on a wrestling show? Maybe it is for certain fans. I don't know. Not for me, because that's what I'm here to see. Good wrestling on a wrestling show. But Chris Statlander retained against Timeless Toni Storm, as I expected she would, because you have to tell the story of Toni Storm. has finally met her match. And I thought that was going to be Athena. I wish it was, but the fact that it's Chris Statlander rules, because Chris Statlander is that good, and she has earned her way here by being that good. And everything that she's been through in it, whether it's injuries, like she's injured both of her knees, like, which sucks, right? And she's just come back from everything that she's been through with Willow, and obviously she was manipulated by Stokely with all of that, and she's been trying her hardest to get Willow to accept her friendship again. And Willow is not having it because Willow has learned not to trust certain people so easily, right? And she has new friendship with Harley, and I mean, Chris even suggested to Harley to team with Willow, which I think will play a factor later on. Which because I'm waiting for Chris and Willow to be friends again, right? But as far as this match goes, like, yeah, it just great in ring wrestling, and not surprising. Like Tony Storm just killing it in the ring. Um, Already killing it with character stuff, right? And just continues to kill it in the ring. And then Chris just showing off her athleticism to, a crazy level, and just killing it. And yeah, they were doing everything um to each other and just kicking out of everything. And even Chris tried to win the way she did at the pay-per-view with the seatbelt pin, but Tony had it scouted this time. Um, there was a great spot like midway through the match where Tony was going for the Storm Zero, right? And Chris, like, pops out of it because she posts her hands to the ground to prevent her head from hitting the mat, which is a great counter to a pile driver, right? That's something you don't see when somebody counters a pile driver. And she started doing this new submission where it's like a arm trapped, like, head scissors kind of submission. It's different. It's something you don't see very often. I can't recall if I've ever seen it really. She like has the head trapped, and she also has the head trapped between the legs, and then the arm stretching out to the back, right? And the ending of this match, so Chris had that hold on for a long time, and Tony just be feeling defeated at that point, right? She would not tap out, but she's like, if you're going to end it, then just kill me, and or something along those lines. I don't remember her exact words, but just end it and kill me already, or something like that. And that seemed to frustrate Chris, and she breaks the hold, and then hits the hits her finish and gets the pinfall victory. And I thought that was a great way to end that match and end this feud for now, right? Because Tony found her match and couldn't get her baby back, essentially, right? Couldn't get the thing that she cares about the most back because Stat beat her again. And Tony might be feeling defeated now, and this is going to be new direction for her character, feeling, less like she can be a champion again for a while. And that's fine, because Tony doesn't need to be the champion again for a while. Let's move away from her being the world champion for a while, right? And after this match, while she's celebrating her victory, Mercedes Moné comes out, which was surprising to me, right? Um, I didn't think we were going to go there this quickly. But Mercedes essentially tells Chris to leave, to get out of her ring, because Mercedes is out for her championship match. So Chris does leave. And it was announced that Mercedes would be having a winner-take-all open challenge, where her challenger would be another champion. So, names were flooding. Maybe Athena shows up for that because we haven't seen her in a while. Or maybe it's going to be somebody from Stardom because there was reports going around like as soon as this was announced that Shuri was taking a weekend off from wrestling in Japan. So people started to speculate, is she going to show up here and face Mercedes and maybe win, right? Because that was what I predicted. That was the only thing I got wrong here, right? Because I predicted that Shuri would be the challenger and that she would win. Because that's the match we want to see, right? I didn't want to see the match that we got, even though I love Mina Shirakawa. I think she is great. I think she has great character. I think she's one of the better Japanese women as far as characters go. And she's a great in-ring worker. Of course, I've loved her stuff in Stardom. And it's just not the match that I wanted to see because I've seen it before. I've seen it recently. And Mina lost. And the match before that, Mina lost. And the match before that, Mina lost. And of course, she's had random tag matches here and there that she's won, and she defended her interim ROH Women's World Television title against Lacey Lane. She won that. But her last couple of matches, just in AEW alone, in singles, have been title matches that she's lost. And I get that she's the interim ROH Women's Champion right now, interim ROH Women's TV Champion. But this is not the match I wanted. And that's nothing against Mina. Like I said, I love Mina. I just wanted to see something else. I didn't want to see Mina lose another title match because she's been doing that a lot. And this match, the match was fine, as I figured it would be once she was announced as the opponent. Also, I forgot to mention when Mercedes came out, the frat house would show up wearing all of her championships and doing the CEO dance because she's been having to find creative ways to transport all of her championships. Because at the time she had 10, and then she won this match and she had 11, and then she won another one in Canada. So now she has 12. 12 championships, 12 belts money. And yeah, this match was very good, and there was points where it looked like Mina was going to win this match, which seems to be a theme in some of these Mercedes matches, where she just ekes out a victory, right? Because she's getting overwhelmed from winning all these titles. Eventually, she has to lose her titles, all of them. I mean, one of them isn't even an official title. It's the Owen Hart Championship that she won from winning the Owen Cup. So she's always going to have that one. So I guess once she loses all the other ones, she just doesn't have to carry that one around anymore. But yeah, I thought this match was great for what it was, and that's fine. It just wasn't the opponent I wanted because I've seen it. I've seen it a bunch. I've seen Mina have title matches a bunch, and yeah, Mercedes would end up getting the victory and retaining, but also winning the TV title and the interim TV title, right? So technically, this is not another championship if you really think about it, because Red Velvet is still the TV champion, I think. Because Nina was the interim champion. But yeah, so Mercedes wins and gets a 12th championship. And after the match, Chris comes back out and gets in Mercedes' face, and they uh, have a little bit of a brawl of sorts, where Chris just hits a move on Mercedes after the match, and Mercedes runs away. And that was basically her getting her one-upsmanship on her after she punked her out at the beginning of her match, right? Then on Dynamite, Mercedes has a 12 belts Money celebration. And before she could even come out to the ring, and Renee Paquette is doing an intro, Puppet Money shows up. And we all know who that is. It's Harley Cameron. And she's, taking all the glory away from Mercedes' celebration. And Mercedes doesn't like that. So Mercedes comes out and is having an argument with the puppet. We don't see Harley at the time. We only see the puppet. And there's this big yellow cake on the table, and you always know what happens when there's a cake on the screen in wrestling. Somebody's going to get thrown into it, or it's going to get thrown at them, or something along those lines, right? So Mercedes pushes the puppet into the cake. The puppet is covered in cake, like completely. And she starts to insult Harley, and Harley eventually comes out, but Chris Statlander was also there under the table, and she pushes Mercedes' face into the cake and then slams her on the table. And Mercedes gets covered in cake and doesn't get to enjoy her celebration of winning 12 titles. Then, after that happens, Mercedes is shown backstage about like a half hour later, still covered in cake. And who would show up but Athena? And Athena suggests that they team in the women's tag team tournament to win another championship, because Mercedes is 12 belts Monet, and Athena is the forever ROH Women's Champion, being the champion for over 1,000 days. Why not them team up together and win another belt together? While this is happening, Billy Starks was tweeting up a storm, talking about like how this is crazy and she needs to talk to Athena, and Athena responds and says she didn't pick up the phone and all of that. So I think this is going to play into Billy finally beating Athena for that belt for the during the third attempt, right? When we thought that Billy was going to beat her before the two other times. And yeah, I guess these two will be teaming in the tournament, which is fine. I guess that's different, but like again, there was other teams they could have had in here. But again, I talked about how we should have had multiple teams, more teams in this, and yeah, we'll see. First round sees Mercedes Monet and Athena taking on Harley and Willow. So this is going to play into that, obviously. And yeah, I'm sure that'll be a great match. And they also announced that Stat is challenging Mercedes to a world championship match at Full Gear. Stat put out the challenge for Mercedes to challenge for the women's title. Again, Mercedes just challenged for the women's title at All In. I get All In was in August, but like July, sorry. So like, some months have passed, but like, why does Mercedes need to challenge for that title when she already has 12 and she should be defending hers? I mean, I hope that they change this to a title for title match and Chris wins, because that would be the perfect way to start the downward spiral of Mercedes losing everything, because the TBS championship was the beginning of all of that. And that's the one that she's had the longest. She broke the title reign, the longest title reign of all time with that belt. And it's time for something different, I think, right? We want to see Mercedes go into a downward spiral because we want to see how she's going to bounce back. And the best way to do that is for her to lose all of her belts and then eventually become the world champion. And that obviously that's got to be where they're going down the line. She has to lose all these belts and eventually become the world champion, because that's inevitable. But if she's going to challenge Mercedes, challenge Stat, she should also be defending her belt. But again, this is another thing that we talk about a lot on here: champions challenging champions. That needs to stop. It keeps happening. Just build up more people. Build up more challengers. I don't want to see the TBS champion challenging the world champion. I want to see the TBS championship defended and the AEW championship defended in separate matches. That's what I want. And that should be how it is all the time. I get you want to do this match, but if you want to do this match, then Mercedes should have lost her belt to somebody else and not faced Mina again. I'm just tired of repeating myself at this point. It's been happening for years now. Champions challenging champions. Stop doing that. They already have a belt. Let them focus on defending that belt. It's getting crazy ridiculous at this point. I mean, not to mention the match we're about to talk about, right? And let's get to it now. The tag team championship match. Brodito, consisting of the ROH World Champion, Bandito, and Brody King, defending against Don Callis' family members, Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita. So now they told a good story going into this, obviously. Takeshita just won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, something that Okada did, multiple times over. And did that by winning the G1, also something that Okada did multiple times over. And Okada is not a Takeshita fan. They are not friends. They are not allies. They are just in the same group, right? And Brodito, again, we talked about in the last match, champions challenging champions. The World Tag Team, the ROH World Champion is already the AEW World Tag Team Champion, right? And they announced after this match that Brodito had a shot at Okada on Dynamite, which we'll get to in a minute, but we'll talk about this match. This is easily the match of the night, the match of the entire show. And that's not surprising, because Bandito's had a lot of those, right? This year alone. And so is Takeshita. And so is Okada. And again, we talked about it in the past. Brodito is a great tag team. But why does he have to be the ROH champion also? I just can't get over that. Champions challenging other champions. That needs to stop. Not that ROH matters or anything, because they don't seem to care about that. I wish they did, but they don't. And yeah, we'll see as far as that goes. But this match was great. Again, the best match on the entire show by far. And, Bandito and Takeshita already had a match of the year candidate earlier in the year on on an ROH pay-per-view. That was easily, it's in the discussion by far. But yeah, there was just so much great stuff in this match. And both of these teams are just great wrestlers all around. Like Bandito can do anything, apparently, because he's just super athletic, right? And yeah, Okada just being Okada in this match. Takeshita coming off of winning the IWGP World Title from Zack Sabre Jr. And yeah, it obviously one of these teams had to lose, right? And it was fitting that Okada was the one who took the pin here, because I did not think Okada and Takeshita were winning, right? Not at all. That's not going to build to anything if that's what you do. But you have to build to something. They're obviously building to those two colliding at some point and Takeshita leaving the Callis family, because it has to happen at some point. But yeah, there's just so much good in this match. And Brody King, German suplexed all three guys at once. Freaking Takeshita and Bandito traded poison ranas, which is insane. So there was a point where Bandito was just fighting both guys, and he goes to Okada goes to hit the Rainmaker on Bandito, and Bandito ducks, and he hits Takeshita. And Okada has this shit-eating grin on his face. He does not feel bad at all that he hit his partner. He is happy that he hit his partner because he does not like Takeshita. He's jealous of Takeshita. He's jealous that Takeshita is getting attention because he wants to be the top Japanese talent in the world. But very clearly, Takeshita is getting to that point, right? And Okada, it's two alphas, right? It's two alphas don't get along, and that's fitting considering that Takeshita is called the alpha. But obviously, we're building to a collision course between Okada and Takeshita. We've been saying that for months now. Obviously, that is going to happen down the line. When, I have no idea. Obviously, the idea of it happening at Wrestle Kingdom might not happen. I would love that, but I don't see it. Just because I think Tony Khan wants to be the one to promote that match, right? It would be a stellar Wrestle Kingdom match, but I don't think that that's where they're going to do it. I do see Okada working Wrestle Kingdom, though. And I think it might be in Hiroshi Tanahashi's final match. I could totally see it being Okada, considering Okada is one of his biggest rivals of all time, right? Tanahashi's final match is taking place at next year's Wrestle Kingdom. It only is fitting that he faces his biggest rival, right? And not that that has to be a amazing match. It's Tanahashi's last match for a reason. But it just makes sense, right? But yeah, off of winning this match, Brodito would get the win after Takeshita took the Rainmaker. He was out of the match after that, and Okada would eat the pin. And because of that, Bandito pinned Okada. He earned a championship match on Dynamite against Okada for the Unified Championship. And that was another stellar match by Bandito. Bandito is going to be in the discussion of my Wrestlers of the Year for sure. And yeah, he just continues to kill it. And I'm excited to see where this goes with Okada and Takeshita when how we get there, because it's going to happen. It's inevitable, right? Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, go out of your way to watch this match specifically, because this match, by far the match of the night, by far, uh, from a wrestling standpoint, for sure. All right, so now we're at the final two matches, and the penultimate match, the co-main event, if you will, is the World Championship match. Hangman Adam Page defending against Samoa Joe. Now, I was intrigued when they announced this match, right? Because it kind of came out of nowhere. They had uh, Hangman teaming with the Ops and against the Don Callis family. And then out of nowhere, him and Samoa Joe just don't get along, right? And Samoa Joe gets in his face and is like, I know that I could beat you, and you've never beaten me before, and I deserve to be world champion again. So they set up this match, right? And it was very good. It's not the best match on the show by any means, but doesn't mean it was a bad match. It certainly was not a bad match. I would say it's like the third best match on the show, or even the second, maybe even the fourth best match if you think about it. I think Jurassic Express and Young Bucks was better than this. Um, Statlander and Tony was better than this. Um, and the tag title match was better than this. So still a very good match. But regardless of all of that, um, thought it was great. Uh, Hangman really had to lay in his buckshots in this one. Um, Samoa Joe had an answer for all of his offense, pretty much, right? Um, and Hangman really had to tough out a win here, because Samoa Joe was beating the shit out of him here, and I thought he bounced back pretty well. He did a lot of great stuff, and he had to hit 3 buckshots in order to win. Proving that it's not that easy to beat Samoa Joe, as most people know already. And after the match, Samoa Joe shows respect, as we expected he would, and the Ops come out to the ring and they attack Hangman. Samoa Joe hits Hangman in the face, and then they stomp him out. And Samoa Joe gets in his face and says, "You don't deserve to hold this. It's mine. I want it back," and all of that. And even though he just lost for that belt clean, uh, losing that match clean should mean we should just move on, right? But now, because Hangman is not happy that he got attacked, this is continuing, and I guess they'll have another title match, right? Because Samoa Joe hits a muscle buster after the match, after the beatdown, and Hangman did not make his presence known on Dynamite, but Samoa Joe did after retaining the Trios Championship in that match that I mentioned earlier with the Hurt Syndicate. He had the mic and just talked about how he was just ready to get back at the top of the mountain, and he would have did the same thing to anybody else who was the champion. And Hangman just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That whole thing. So the Ops are heels now, which is cool. Heel Shibata is interesting, right? I didn't think I'd see that. But yeah, I think the Ops is great. Seeing Samoa Joe back in the main event is cool. But it brings us back to the topic that we mentioned multiple times already: champions challenging champions. Stop. Just stop it. Just build up other challengers. Why is the trios champion challenging for the world title? I get the story. I get all of that. And I understand the story. I'm fine with that. Then he should have lost the trios titles. If you're going to continue this feud, he should have lost the trios titles. Why is that so difficult for Tony Khan? I love Tony Khan. I love AEW. AEW is my favorite wrestling show, wrestling company. I love it. But why is this a thing, a constant thing? Champions challenging champions. Stop it. Stop it. And yes, I'm complaining because it's bad. It needs to stop. Let those champions focus on their championship. Why is that so hard? Why can't we build up other people to challenge the champions? I mean, we just did this again. Hangman faced Kyle Fletcher last pay-per-view. The TNT champion. Like, what the hell? Why are we still doing this? Stop having champions challenge other champions. That's all I'm going to say about it again. All right. We're at the main event. The match that we all expected to be the main event, right? Darby Allin took on Jon Moxley in an I Quit match. Oh boy, did this match create some controversy on the internet. So this was not your run-of-the-mill wrestling match, right? This was a brawl. This was hardcore. This was everything you would expect, Darby to do in a match like this against Jon Moxley, the guy that does these things to other people, right? And this has been building. Darby said he was going to end Jon Moxley. He was going to end the Death Riders. And he tried to do that at All Out. And then we got the return of Pac. And, Bryan Danielson got involved there. And it was it was odd not having Bryan Danielson on commentary for this match. Odd not having him for the entire show, but just this match in particular. I thought maybe because he wasn't on commentary, he was going to show up here. Because there was another return that we got that we'll work our way to that, right? So this match starts off very cringeworthy for certain people, right? Obviously I wouldn't want to feel this at all, but they're brawling outside, right? And Jon Moxley brings out a bunch of skewers. But so we see skewers brought out, and instead of Mox doing what we normally see with skewers, he takes one of them. So normally what they do is they take the pack of skewers and push them into the head of somebody so that they spread out when they let go, and it creates that visual, right, of the skewers sticking in the head, and it like blossoms, right? Mox did not do that. He took one of the skewers and was putting it under the fingernail of Darby Allin and just spinning it around and sticking it in there like he was going to pull the nail off completely. And this created a very big cringe moment on the internet. The internet did not like this. It was pretty crazy, right? And they were just a lot of brawling on the outside, jumping off of stuff, steel steps, some choking with the flag. Darby had the AEW flag that he brought to the top of Mount Everest and used it to choke Jon Moxley. Like, Hangman did with the chain at All In. And it's already been established that Mox does not take well to being choked. He reacts very negatively to being choked, especially like that. And Mox would end up getting out of that, finding a way out of that. And Mox would, get the upper hand once again. And Darby had brought a bag with him to the ring, right? And he had teased something on the way to this match with a flamethrower. He has a bottle of lighter fluid and just sprays it at Jon Moxley like he's going to light Jon Moxley on fire. And this, of course, would bring out the rest of the Death Riders in this moment because they don't want to see Jon Moxley get lit on fire. I don't think anybody did. Jon Moxley probably wouldn't mind doing it because he's crazy. And they would find a way to do it as safe as possible. We've seen AEW do this stuff. We've seen Jon Moxley do crazy stuff. Remember the Spike thing with Copeland? That was crazy. People didn't like that either. So after he sprays him with the lighter fluid, that's when the Death Riders make their presence known, all of them. And there's some tables set up outside the ring, and Claudio does that spot that he's done to Darby a bunch, where he puts him up in a gorilla press and throws him out of the ring onto the announce table. And they bring Mox back in the ring, and Mox hits the Death Rider finisher that he does off the apron into those two tables on the opposite side of the ring. And after this happens, this is where the really divisive spot happens. The Death Riders put a aquarium in the ring, a small tank, and fill it up with water. And Jon Moxley is essentially torturing Darby Allin by trying to drown him, by shoving his head into this small aquarium tank. And yeah, the internet was very, very divisive about this. There was one person in particular, Sarah Stock, who started a whole thing. Sarah Stock, former wrestler, wrestled as Sarita in TNA, and was an agent in AEW for the first couple of years. And she started to stir about this spot specifically, which prompted a lot of people to respond to her, whether it was on her side or not. It created a whole thing. And she's still being, ranting. She's still ranting about stuff on there pertaining to this. She got into arguments with people, and it's, she also didn't have to say anything. But that's besides the point. So Mox tries to drown Darby. And it doesn't work. Because Darby refuses to quit. And the lights go out. And this could only be one person, right? When it's a Darby match and the lights go out. The lights come back on. And old man Sting is in the ring. Sting is back. And he's all gray and isn't dyeing his hair anymore. And he's got a long ass beard, but he's still got the paint on. I believe Sting has mentioned that this year is the last year that he is ever going to paint his face. So after this year, he will not be painting his face ever again. But yeah, Sting shows up with the bat and, lets Darby get his... So he takes out most of the Death Riders with the bat and then hands the bat to Darby. And Darby uses the bat on Mox and then, targets the knee and hits the knee a bunch with the bat. Not to mention, I forgot to mention that Sting destroyed the aquarium that had the water inside, the small tank that had the water inside. So the water is just now all over the ring. And yeah, so Darby gets the bat and hits Mox in the knee a bunch with it, and then locks in the Scorpion Deathlock. And while he's got the Deathlock on, like I said, I mentioned there's the water in the ring. So Mox's face is like in the water while he's in the submission, and he eventually quits because of that. And Darby wins the match. And the match, again, was very divisive online. But I understood exactly what they were doing. I understood that this needed to be what it was because that was the story that they were telling. Darby was going to do anything and everything to win because he was never going to quit in the name of AEW. And Mox was going to do anything he could to torture Darby to quit, to do that. But Darby was never going to do that. Darby was never going to quit in the name of AEW because he loves AEW more than anything and would never do that. And he didn't. He made Mox do it. And that brings me to, I mentioned much earlier in the show, right? That Mox had a match with Kyle O'Reilly on Dynamite. And in that match, Mox didn't seem as confident as he normally does because he lost this match to Darby, right? And we've talked about in the past, and even in this match, how Mox doesn't like when submissions are used on him. And even though Mox has like that mat wrestling training and the judo style training and stuff, the story is that he doesn't like to be choked. He doesn't like to look weak by possibly tapping out. And his confidence is shot after this Darby match. And he's having this pretty good match with Kyle O'Reilly, and Kyle O'Reilly has an ankle lock on Mox, and Mox is looking desperate in the ankle lock. And he punches the referee to get himself blatantly disqualified. One of the only times ever that I will accept a DQ finish in a match because it pushes the story forward, right? Mox was desperate to get out of that hold, and his confidence is shot from everything that's happened with Darby. And he was not prepared for that. And he took a desperate way out by attacking the referee because he didn't want to be seen tapping out again, right? And I think that this is building to something bigger that I think we've all kind of expected to happen, right? The Death Riders are finally going to lose confidence in Mox as their leader and are finally going to turn on Mox. And Mox can finally take some time off after the Death Riders take him out, right? He does not have to come back right away. He can sit out for like a month. And then when he comes back, he'll be rejuvenated as a baby face. And maybe even team up again with Eddie and Hook. And we get to see that dynamic, right? But this has to be where we're going. Because we can't this can't be treated like the bloodline, right? Mox can go his separate ways from these guys and go back to being a babyface. And this was fun for a while, right? And we talked about the Death Riders really losing its luster during his title reign and, you know, people not understanding the direction of the Death Riders. It seems to have gone in the right direction after he lost the belt, right? And that it has to be building to that, right? It has to be building to something bigger, something like them turning on Mox, losing confidence in Mox. We saw Marina not look happy with Mox, to the point where, like, before this match, she was like smacking him, like trying to smack sense into him to bring back the Mox that she knows, right? But yeah, I'm intrigued to see where this is going because I mean, apparently they're not done with Darby. because Darby did get involved in the Dynamite stuff with O'Reilly and the conglomeration. So we'll see how this builds, how this continues to build, because I like this story of Mox, like his confidence is shot, right? Maybe the Death Riders are already losing faith in him because he quit. He gave up against Darby. He gave up against the cause of what the Death Riders means, right? And that could lead to a revolt, right? Lead to maybe Claudio's the one who is like, I don't know if this is the guy I want to follow anymore. And Wheeler Yuta follows suit, and so does Daniel Garcia. And it'll be official when Marina does it, right? Because Marina was the first one that he brought into the fold when this Mox became the Mox that we know now, right? And when Marina is the one that finally turns on Mox, you'll know that it's over. That Mox is going the other way finally. And I think it's time, right? We've seen a lot out of him as a heel in this run specifically, and it's gotten better. And his matches this year have been, again, a very divisive subject, but I stand by my argument that I've made with multiple people, and some people don't like it, but I think Mox is one of, if not the best in-ring storytellers in all of wrestling. And he has shown that in his recent matches, especially since May, right? Since like May or June. Everything that he's been building, that he was building to with Hangman, then building here with Darby. And I think Mox has conversation for a Wrestler of the Year just because of how good he is at telling stories during his matches. And I think he's one of the best to do that. And I'm very intrigued because I love John. John Moxley has always been, since I was introduced to him, one of my favorite wrestlers ever, especially in AEW. Especially in AEW. And I know people have soured because of his title reign as leader of the Death Riders. I never did. I just soured on the story. I never soured on him. And I never will. Because I think he's great. And he's an all-timer for me. And always will be. So I'm very intrigued to see where all of this is going. Very intrigued to see if maybe down the line Darby, Darby will maybe become a champion again. I know it's crazy to think, but Darby is going to be a world champion one day. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. And he might not say that he doesn't want to, that it doesn't matter to him, that he just wants to be be the guy to defend AEW against everyone, and that he doesn't need the championship to do that, but he's going to be the world champion one day. I don't know when, but he will. But for now, that's going to do it for me. I had a lot of fun talking about this show, and I hope that you enjoyed listening to me talk about this show. One of the very rare solo shows for me, because as I mentioned, Alan was not available, so I wanted to get a podcast out, and I wanted to talk about this show. I wanted to talk about the stories on this show, the matches on this show. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Make sure to go to our linktree / Going Over Big Time podcast, where you can get all the ways to watch and listen to this podcast, as well as social medias for me, Alan, and the podcast itself. And Alan will be back in the future, as we will be talking, I'm sure, extensively about things happening in the wrestling world, whatever that may be. But for now, that is going to do it for me. Thanks, and have a good